and welcome to this week's episode of Behind the Mask. As you can see, I am flying solo again this week. I'm going to be your host, Dennis, for anybody just now getting into the show. I'm very sad. I'm without my hetero life mate, Eugene, but he is on deployment right now. Mike, checking in early. How are you doing tonight, my friend? Good to see you. Good to see you. Yeah, so as I said, again, flying solo tonight, although I am really excited. We've got a great guest for you guys tonight. We're going to be talking with Jessica Lee from the St. Louis Archangels, our newest WNXL team. So I'm looking forward to getting into that with her in just a little bit here. But before we move forward, I do want to give some shout outs. First of which to our good friend Mike, Charm City Paintball. He's in the chat right now. He's been a big supporter of ours. As you can see behind me, I've got quite a number of his headbands, so I think I might have a problem. So big shout out to Mike. Thank you again for joining us. I'd also like to thank Lupe Leyva for putting me in contact with Jessica, and also for being a big supporter of the show and a good friend as well. Of course, I can't do any show without mentioning our official, unofficial sponsors, I should say, Ghost Energy. Being the first. They have that legendary energy, that epic focus, no sugar, all natural caffeine. They absolutely do help with getting through the day. I actually had one today during a particularly hard shift at work. It was just myself and one other. Lupe, I mean, if you're free, I'll shoot you a link in just a sec here. But yeah, hard shift at the hospital today. It was just myself, one surgical tech, and two doctors. So I was literally going from one exam room to the next, and so it was not fun. It was not fun, but that's okay. I did it, and like I say, I had Ghost Energy to help me get through. The other official, unofficial sponsor I want to shout out is Dr. Squatch Soap. Absolutely love Dr. Squatch. It's I mean, the sense that they have for it. It makes me feel like a man, which is terrible to say. I hate that, but you know, they've got various different grits, various different scents. They have deodorants, hair care, beard care for those men out there who want to really get into, you know, taking care of themselves and working on you know, being a man, which sometimes that's not always the greatest thing. Anyway, before I open my mouth and insert my foot, I'm gonna leave it at that. I also did want to just take some time to thank our guest before she comes on. You know, I had reached out to her a couple of weeks ago, again, through Lupe, and he was gracious enough to reach out to her, put us in touch. So again, thank you so much. So to get things started, obviously we've got Chicago NXL right down the road. This weekend will be the Windy City Major. It's maybe not as much of a big deal because Saturday's my birthday, and I mean that to me is a much bigger deal. Yeah, not egotistical at all. Anyway, but yeah, so it's going to be a very exciting event. You know, we're seeing a good wind up to the season. We're seeing a lot of very strong teams jockeying for position, both in the pro as well as the semi-pro ranks. Go Cyclones. Sorry, got ties to Texas, and you know, gotta support my boys. Anyway, but that being said, be curious to see how things shake out with this event being the last one before Cup. We didn't have a whole lot of changes to the rosters leading up to Chicago. There were a few key members that jumped, but we talked about that in the last stream. Silos Cortez being probably the biggest name to really make a big jump, heading over to Revo. So we'll see how much of an impact he makes with Revo, and see whether or not, you know, he's a difference maker for them. Yes, thank you, Lupe. I was actually just about to mention that as well. We are going to be having our first WNXL bracket since Florida, as Lupe mentioned. Not to go too much into the weeds on this, we have said it many times before. I don't fully understand the logic behind the NXL only having, I think it's 3 events this year with a WNXL bracket. I don't know if it's just logistics, trying to get all of the teams together to give them plenty of time to practice. I know a lot of the ladies actually do play on other teams as well, and so that could be a part of it. But I'm excited to see how this one shakes up. Destiny is sitting in a really good spot in first place right now, but I don't want to say that there's any one favorite, because there's a lot of strong talent in the WNXL. All you have to do is watch some of the matches, and you get a feel for just how much time and effort that the ladies are putting into it. And we're going to find out more about that tonight as well. So, yeah. So moving on to exactly that, I'd like to go ahead and bring in our guest. So, everybody, please welcome Jessica from the St. Louis Archangels. Let's get her in here. Jessica, thank you so much for joining us.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me. It's
of course. No, it's our pleasure.
Yeah. And probably like over Memorial Day or during that time, I never thought this would even be a possibility or we'd be in this spot. So it's really cool. So.
Yeah, it's super exciting. This is obviously going to be the inaugural event for the St. Louis Archangels. So I would imagine you probably have a lot of, kind of mixed feelings on how this is going to go. But, before we get too far into that, I'd love to hear a little bit about your background within the sport itself. How did you first start playing paintball?
So I am 34 now. I started playing I think most people do, in a birthday party. So I was 15. I went with a friend and her dad for her birthday party. And I feel like all the other girls who were part of it, they're kind of that's okay. That was fun for what it was. And then her and I stuck with it. The first team I played on was a 3-woman team out of a super small indoor field near Cincinnati. So stuck with that for a while, kind of did the Cincinnati scene for a couple years. I did, when I was a freshman at UC, try out for the Femmes in 2007. So that I made that during that time. And it was a different year for them. Tammy had taken a step back. We actually had a full line from Canada for that season. So we had 5 girls from Canada, 5 of us from the States, and did okay. We were playing D2, and I feel like D2 back then is so different than D2 now, but so different. but it was it was a really, really cool experience. But then after that season, the Femmes kind of took a break from X-Ball. I think some of them were playing MPPL and doing other things, so it wasn't really an option to jump back into that. So just kind of explored the Cincinnati scene for a long time, played around Columbus, played on a team called Cincinnati Surprise, one called Working Class Holes out of Columbus. So they're a great group of guys. Played, for the most part, MSXL events. I don't know if you guys are aware of those out there. So that's kind of our Midwest series. So played those, been playing those forever. Played quite a few PSP events over the years, and then probably took a break when I had my daughter in 2014, took quite a long break. Played with the University of Cincinnati when I went there. They still had pretty good collegiate paintball going on around that time. So that was a fun experience.
Now, was that NCPL at the time or had NCPL on?
Yeah.
It was. Okay.
I'm pretty sure we did play out of, I know one of the events was at All-American in Pittsburgh when they had the big indoor field there.
Hmm.
So we played at least one or two events there. Um, yeah, so played PSP for probably a solid 3 or 4 years, just with Cincinnati-based teams between anywhere from well, when we started, they didn't even have D4, so it was starting in D3, did D2 a bit, ranks dropped down, went to D4, so kind of just all over the place in
Right.
those areas. Yeah. Um,
Very
and
cool.
then,
Very cool.
yeah, had my kids, kind of it's so hard having little kids and trying to be involved in this. So I have a boy and a
Oh, yeah.
girl, and yeah, so took a good step back after that. And probably the last 2 years have been trying to get more into things again. So,
Okay.
yeah.
And how did it feel shaking the rust off?
Good. I actually started playing with Struggle, which is a Midwest-based team, about a year and a half ago, and so jumped back in with them, playing MSXLs. Was happy to be part of the scene again. And then we randomly took a trip down to GG over Memorial Day. I just
Hmm.
I heard such great things about the field, so I just wanted to go see it. It's like a 5-hour drive from where I am, so we just had the long weekend and went down. And I mean, it's an awesome facility, and ended up hooking up with the owner Dustin and whatnot. And started to learn about his purchase of the Archangels a few weeks after that, so it was really cool.
Very cool. Very cool. Yeah. And I've seen GG Sports Park. We follow them on their Instagram. They've got a beautiful, beautiful setup.
It's so
We've got
pretty.
a very,
Yes.
yeah. Oh, it's amazing. It's amazing. Um, and we've got a very similar field. It's actually kind of a combination of two fields here in California that remind me a lot of GG. One being SC Village, which is, that was the place to play in Southern California for the longest time. And the man who owns SC Village also owns Giant Sports down in Texas. He also has one in San Diego, and then he has another field in Bellflower, California, called Hollywood Sports, which is much more, has those, like, they look almost like movie sets. There's spaceships and on one field, and there's
All
statues,
those
50
things.
statues.
Mhm.
Yeah. So some of the stuff that I saw on the GG account reminds me a lot of the things and now that SC Village has been renovated, and they have a lot of those same, very grand, kind of
Great, yes.
props and stuff like that. Yeah.
Like, where
It's
am
pretty
I?
cool.
What is this?
Exactly. No, that's amazing. That's awesome. So, you mentioned, the purchase of the St. Louis Archangels as a team. There's some history to that, and I actually found that out. You, like I say, we had been talking back and forth a little bit on Instagram, and I saw that you posted a whole series of photos from the original St. Louis Archangels. So, look, give us a little bit of history of the team itself.
So I just learned about it around that time as well. And so I guess there was the original Archangels, which was established with a group of guys probably in the mid to late 80s, early 90s.
Mm-hmm.
So they had that name, and they were really the first competitive team in that area, in the Midwest area, and
Mm-hmm.
Dustin really looked up to them at that time. I guess when he was younger, I think when he was a teenager, he really thought like those guys were really awesome and he would follow them. But during our first tryout, some of the guys came out, and they were hilarious. They had not been around paintball in a really long time, so they were really kind of confused on what was going on, but they were really invested too. A few of them were like, what the hell is this? Like, what is going on? Because they were in the woods. They were telling us how they would actually use like Pringles cans for their pods. And just some crazy stuff. They brought one of their photo albums with them to show us like some old pictures. So So it was really cool. They also told us that like half of them are dead right now. So
Oh my
we're like,
God.
okay. And they're like, it's okay. And that like one or two of them, they just don't know what happened to them. So,
Wow.
but
Wow.
they were like, they were excited to like see the growth of paintball in honestly really not that long of a time period if you think about it, you know, the changes that have happened since that time. So it's
Oh
pretty cool.
God, yeah. Oh, absolutely. I mean, I feel like paintball has had what would be akin to like the Industrial Revolution. You know,
Yes,
like
definitely.
when I first started playing, which was in the early to mid '90s when I was still in high school myself.
Mhm.
Um, you know, high end guns were autocockers, automags.
Mhm.
And that was, you know, not too long afterwards, came out with the Spider, and then not too long afterwards, they came out with their electronic frame. And of course, at that point, you know, the race was on. Smart Parts came out with the shoebox shocker. You know, the Angel came along not too long after that,
Mhm.
and you know, from there. But you're absolutely right. In such a relatively short period of time, paintball went from in the woods, you know, if you really got your you know stroke down perfectly on your cocker, if you hit the you know RT on that automag just right, you were getting like 10 balls a second, you know. And then along comes, you know, the electronic circuit board that got
Mhm.
integrated in,
Mhm.
and you know, the gardeners coming up with newfangled pneumatics, but
Mhm.
or you know, revolutionizing his own design and coming up with better ways to make the autococker efficient. And yeah, suddenly we're in the digital age, and now we've had to dial it back. And then mech is having a resurgence,
Yeah,
and
that's very true.
yeah, and all paintball is capped at 10.5 balls per second.
Right. I played did you ever hear of the AXBL like in like it was more of a New York sort of thing. There's a lot of Canadian teams. Um, we played with them for probably a year or so, but they were 15 BPS. And I
Okay.
look back and I'm like, how did I play that? Like that is crazy to think about, you know? Like it's
Oh
wild.
no. Oh no. That's the thing is like, I mean, we talk about it all the time. We cut our teeth during the Wild West days of uncapped semi.
Yes, that's true. I would be slow though. I don't know. I'd be like, I don't know. Ramping is definitely favorable for me. So I
Well, and I mean that brings up a good point, and this is something again that we've talked a lot about. We've had B Youngs on the show before. You know, I'm still trying to get Tammy to come on, like she's very busy. But
yeah.
you know, there was one thing that we constantly would talk about is again with the evolution of the sport, um, the marker has kind of been that leveling, you know, that leveled the playing field
Yes.
because
For sure.
anybody can pick up a marker and they
Mhm.
have the capability of being competitive in terms of rate of fire,
Yeah.
efficiency, and everything like that. And
Mhm.
it does finally come down to the individual skill. Now, obviously, we had that early on in the days of you know coming out of the woods in the early airball field and stuff like that. Um, but then you know we started to see it got to a point where you know, you literally walked on the field. Some guys walked on the field with almost a case of paint on their back,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
and it was just all about spray and pray, fill every lane
Mhm.
with as much paint as you can, and hope you hit something, you know.
Mhm.
So it's kind of nice, but it's funny that you know we talk about how paintball changed in such a short period of time with the rate of fire and stuff like that.
Mhm.
There was a period of time where if you were solidly in the NPPL 7-man camp, you didn't really like the PSP guys because they ramp. They ramp.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, there's definitely that rival. Like, I feel like we had in Cincinnati, we had some NPPL teams and some PSP teams, and they didn't really like do anything together. Like, I
No.
don't know. I see what you mean, though. It was funny.
Yeah, I
And
mean, and obviously the only teams who really straddled that line were you know the pro teams. So you know Dynasty had
yeah,
a PSP line, they had an NPPL line. A lot of the pro teams did, but I think that was also just because of the fact that you know we were still, we meaning you know the within the sport itself, we were still very much all about like, I just want to play, and so it was all about getting as much time on the field as you could.
Mm-hmm. I think what pushed me also somewhat away from the PSP there for a while was the coaching. Like I hate, like how many years did we have that where coaching was allowed on the
sideline coaching?
I hated that so much. Just like,
I mean, that was a double-edged sword, I feel like, because you loved it when your team had a good sideline coach who was able to call it out, but you hated it. You hated having to yell over the other guy, especially if they happen to be standing right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I'm not the fastest person, but I feel like I understand the game well where I could get in positions. But when people are just calling it out, I'd be like, really? Like, this is not fun.
Yep. Yeah, I will admit I've softened my view considerably over the years, and now that I'm kind of on this side of the field now, I as content creators, we have to be a little bit more unbiased, and we have to be a little bit more accepting. I will admit that, actually, I will give credit where it's due. I feel like you ladies play a lot more of a tactical game. You still have explosive plays, and you still have those big run throughs and stuff like that. But I feel like, in general, you ladies have a much more analytical view of the sport than men do. I still feel like some of the testosterone and adrenaline drives us, as opposed to how exactly.
I just gotta go.
Exactly. Now that being said, what is your approach to the game? Like, where are you most comfortable?
I am really, like Lupe said, he said Haley is a 9-pod girl. That's definitely me. For these past Chicago practice this past weekend, I was carrying like 10 or 11 because it was just like a heavy paint field. So I'm typically a 3, like a center, or possibly like a snake corner. I like being able to like come off break, shoot my lanes, and then see the breakdown of the field and go from there. So I kind of like that flexibility. If we need like a specific 2, like I did play the snake corner quite a bit this weekend, like I am completely fine doing that as well. But I kind of like just reading the field and seeing where I need to go to support the rest of my team. So that's kind of been my role the past few years, at least. Very cool.
And it seems like you have that, just in the short time that we've been talking, you have that energy. Like I could tell that if you're Doritos too, they're gonna hear you. I'm
trying better. I feel like we've worked a ton on that this weekend. My voice gets hoarse easy, so I feel like I need to do that more, like sing-songy sort of stuff on the field. So trying that more to get relayed, way across the field. So
yeah, very cool. Oh wow, this is awesome. So you recently hosted a presentation regarding was it essentially the sport of paintball in general, or was it the actual growth of the WNXL in specific?
It was kind of a combination of both. So the school district that I teach in, I'm on a leadership committee there, and our superintendent reached out to us at the beginning of the summer and said, we're looking for a few people to talk during our opening day, which is like when all the staff is there, like everyone who works within the school district. So there's like 400 or 500 people present. And I started thinking about it as like the WNXL started going, or the Archangels started moving along. I was like, this is kind of like a cool story. Not a lot of people know a lot about paintball. Like this might be a good opportunity to spread that to people who just don't have that knowledge. So I reached out to him, and I was kind of like, it's kind of weird. Like it's that line when you're a teacher and being a paintball player, like sometimes they don't mesh really well. So,
yep.
Like some people have bad connotations with it, I guess. And so I reached out to him, sent him some pictures, and he was like, this is awesome. Like, this is really cool. Like, I would love for you to come and talk to the staff about it. So kind worked on a presentation through the summertime. And it was really about my journey through paintball, but also the beginning part was really breaking down what paintball is like today. So showing clips of the NXL, showing layouts of the field, just showing like the legitimacy of it. And then talking about the formation of the WNXL and how important it is for this sport in general, you know, comparing it to like the WNBA to the NBA and all that. I actually showed a brief clip from the Heroines documentary, and I think they really enjoyed watching that. And it was awesome. I had so many people reach out to me afterwards who had, you know, teenage kids who are wanting to get into it, or even, you know, we have quite a few younger teachers who had played before. So like my next thought is like trying to either do like a staff outing and then maybe rolling it into like welcoming like high schoolers from Kings to our local field and trying to get something on that edge worked out. So trying to decide where I want to go from here.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. I mean, I saw a few of the pictures that you put up on your social media of the presentation itself, which, I mean, kudos. It was amazing. You had all sorts of different examples. You know, you had, like you said, you had some video footage. You've got layouts of the fields. I mean, it looked really, really, it was fantastic. You know, and I'm sure you probably, you know, leaned into your, you know, background as a teacher to kind of put that together, I'm sure.
It's hard to break it down. Like, it's hard when you've been in it. So, yeah. To like break. I feel like when you've been in paintball for so long. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, no. I was just going to say, I mean, it was fantastic to see. And I mean, unfortunately, it was a little bit of a missed opportunity yet again for the NXL. They, you know, I know Lupe had said that I think he tried to reach out, and I believe, you know, a few people tried to reach out to the NXL, specifically saying, "Hey, this is something that you guys really should key in on." Because one of the things that they constantly talk about is wanting to grow the sport, wanting to, you know, always bring new people into the fold and make it something that has a much wider spread appeal. But unfortunately, radio silence on their end. So it's unfortunate. You know, Lupe's daughter had a very similar situation. She got to put on an actual, you know, presentation at Texas A&M, focusing on kinesiology, I believe, and you know, some of the fundamentals of the fitness side of it going into the sport. But then she also did host, you know, an on the field thing, and that was my immediate thought when I had heard that you know, did a very similar thing, was how much you want to bet she's going to get some of these people out on the field so so that they can get a taste for it, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, it seems like a natural transition. It really does. Yeah. See, Lupe says he reached out and got nothing, which is unfortunate. You know, it's really unfortunate. This is again, it's a perfect opportunity for them to be able to promote the league, promote the sport, but also to promote you ladies, because this is something that I think has been a long time coming. You said it yourself. You have been in the sport for quite a while. You've played on a number of teams. You've seen the progression of the sport. You know, this is no longer a world that we can live in where everything is so exclusive to gender, you know. And I hate for it to go there, because a lot of people are going to say, oh, well, it's, you know, this and that about being PC and stuff like that. But this is the world we live in. I mean, you have just as much, you know, ability and talent to play a sport. Why shouldn't you be able to showcase it? You know? So again, I feel like this has been a long time coming. And I know B, Tammy, and quite a few of the other ladies that have been in the sport for a long time, they really paved the way. But I mean, I see the WNXL being a really, really good, you know, stepping stone to making something much bigger. And ultimately, I've talked about this on previous shows before. Ultimately, I would love to see a pro team, semi-pro team that has a co-ed line. You know, why Why shouldn't we be able to see you out there wearing a Dynasty jersey, for example?
Right. Yeah.
There's no reason why that can't happen.
And I
Thank you,
followed.
but yeah, there it is.
I might be wrong, but I know multiple women at this time play D2. I feel like there might have been one or two who've played semi-pro. I don't know names, but maybe I'm wrong there. But
well, and again, you've said that, over the years, what equivalated to D, like, I'll use a perfect example. When I stepped away from the competitive, stepped away from tournament paintball, I was Division II MPPL. Nowadays, that's that skill level is equivalent to like D5, D4 X ball. I mean, it's so much different now. So at the time, semi-pro, that meant a lot. And now you see people who would have been, semi-pro or even professional level then are in, still divisional players now.
Right.
That's just how much as a sport we've grown, But yeah, I believe you're right. I believe there were, I think Kat Gong at one point would have been semi-pro. I think there were a few others. I think B and Tammy probably were at a semi-pro level at some point as well. But again, I feel like that's something that it's a long time coming, and now you actually getting to experience it. I mean, I'd love to hear a little bit of your journey into it so far. Now, I saw some of the tryouts that you have put up. I saw the reels that you guys put up of the practices. And again, you guys are no joke. For anybody anybody who's looking at you at any of the WNXL teams and going, oh, well, it's women. No. You're going to get blown off the field.
It's definitely been, it's so hard coming into something, mid-season like that. That's tough to do. People are established early on, and especially when we honestly just finished up tryouts. I think it was mid-August. And so this past weekend was our only true practice, like together as a team, like before they were technically tryouts. So people were competing against each other. And so this weekend was the first time as a team. And I thought like it went awesome. Like, I don't think we could have gotten along like any better. Everyone there is super hardworking, no like hotheads. Everyone just wants to like get the job done, listen, collaborate. It's like, it's been very refreshing. It's just really cool to see. And everyone wants this to succeed. So like so bad. So it's been really cool. Our first tryout, that was in, I think it was mid-July. Dustin reached out to me like at end of May and started talking to me about the process, and he wanted to have me come in and help with tryouts. So we had a tryout in mid-July, and we probably had 7 women show up, and we took a handful of them. The other ones are wonderful, just didn't quite have the experience yet. So we're hoping that they come back, maybe work a little more, and then get pushed in that direction. So we picked up 4 after that tryout, including myself. And then the second tryout, we had it was a better turnout. I think we had 10, 11, or 12 maybe. And so our roster at this time for Chicago is, unfortunately, it's only 6 because our 7th, because it was last minute, wasn't able to get off work, will be with us at Cup. We're going to make it work. Like, we had 6 all this weekend. We're going to make it work. We have plenty of like staff help, pit help, pod runners. So I did look at the weather and I was like, oh, it's only like 68 or 70. Like, we can do this. If it was like in the 90s, we'd be screwed. But like, we can
another
do
story.
Yeah. So we're honestly, everyone was super happy with how this past weekend went. Everyone worked really hard. I love that the women who are playing, we can put them in different positions. Like, we do have our consistent front snake player, who's Lauren. She's been working hard. She goes out to the complex, KC complex, and plays with like Todd Boyer.
Okay.
those guys. So she's relatively new to paintball, but she does have that around her and that support. And I think I've seen a huge amount of growth from her since the very beginning when she came out in July. So she's our like go to snake person off break. Our Doritos side, we have a few that we can kind of choose from on what, if we want them in the front or maybe the two instead. And then I kind of just float around to whatever else needs to be done. So
you're so humble. You're so humble. I go wherever they need me. It's no big deal.
I mean, seriously. Well, just tell me what you need me to do, and I'll go do that. I will not play. I don't prefer to be like a one. I am not quick enough. Okay. I'm too old for that at this point in time. So
you say that, but I've got like 10 years on you.
No, but like I feel like once you hit 30, you're like, nah, that's okay.
Yeah. Unfortunately, unless you're like an Alex Goldman or a Ryan Greenspan, where you've somehow you've tapped into the fountain of youth. I think 30 is the slow, gradual.
And then downward. You add 2 kids in, and you're like, so. I'll let the younger ones go do that.
Hey, why not? I mean, it worked for me. I ended up finding, I'm very comfortable being more of a back. I often played back corner and then would bump up from there. But I can yell a lot, and so I just tell people where to go.
And I should say, I will happily, if I have to get in there, I will do it. I will happily do it. Yeah. So just not my first choice.
Yeah. So to make a little bit of a left turn at the traffic light. So you mentioned you do have kids. You are a mom, but you're a teacher as well. So, I'd love to hear a little bit about what do you do outside of paintball?
So this is my 12th year teaching. I'm a preschool intervention specialist. So that means I work with kids from 3 to 5 years old. Half of them have a diagnosed disability, and the other half of them are like our peer role models. So they are typically developing peer models. So I have a morning class and an afternoon class. And thankfully I have wonderful assistants that work with me. And I'm licensed up to 3rd grade, but I plan on always being in this area. Like the little guys are what I love. Like, I like the flexibility I have with it. And with working with kids with special needs, I get such different personalities and needs every year. It's fun changes. And I work with, I can have a lot of my kids for like up to 3 years. So it's nice, like getting to know them and their families and just getting really close and, just seeing their growth, that like when they just teeny tiny 3-year-olds and then they leave when they're almost 6, like that is such a big change. So
absolutely. And I mean, I have to commend you. I have a kind of a soft spot for people who work with special needs kids. My stepson had a learning disability, and I mean, I could not be more proud of him to this day. He just turned 25 this year. He works 2 jobs. I mean, he's just an amazing kid. I love him to death. But I as a parent, I got to be able to experience a little bit of what that was like, having to meet with teachers and go through setting up individualized learning programs, and IEPs are so important. And especially now, as we're learning more and more about neurodivergence and a lot of these things, it's so important that we recognize some of these potential things in the kids at a younger age, so we can set them up for success as they get older, moving forward in their school career. So, I mean, my hat goes off to you for getting that ball rolling. That's unbelievable. I absolutely love that. And again, close to my heart, my daughter is, she did not fall far from this tree. So she's just like me. She's a little ball of angst who unfortunately allows, just give me all of your negative energy, and I'm going to try and make it better. And then think about herself, and so there's been some concerns there with, her learning ability and whether or not maybe there is again some neurodivergence there. So it means a lot to me to know that there are people out there like yourself who, they take it upon themselves to make sure that these kids have, the tools that they need to be successful. So thank you so much.
Sure. Yeah, no, I love, like, it's just really cool getting to know, like, right now I have a little girl who has something called charge syndrome. Her family's very open about her diagnosis, and very, like, they want to educate other people about her needs, but she's pretty much blind. She doesn't have a vestibular system, which I find, like, so interesting, which your vestibular system, from what I understand, is how your body processes, like, where it is in space.
Where it is
so,
in
like,
space.
Yeah. So, like, I can't imagine not having that and, like, what she feels like. So she's, like, laying on her back a lot, or on her stomach, or she's, like, kind of moving side to side. And she does, have hearing aids. But it's really cool when we can find stuff that she loves. Like, I constantly am bringing in different, like, manipulatives. And one day she found, it was some fidget that actually I think my daughter had given me to bring in. And I brought it in, and she very carefully walked over to the table, grabbed it. Like, I can feel that. And took it to the carpet, laid down, and was like, this is the best thing. So
That's
it's just
so
like
cool.
those little moments. So it's finding the things that they're interested in, even if it's not like what you think would be typical for, kids that age. So I like working into their brains.
Oh yeah. I mean, I'll tell you from experience, one of the best toys I ever had was a cardboard box.
Yes, exactly. I still bring those in all the time for the kids. I was like, go figure out what to do with this. Use your brain a little bit.
Exactly. Oh, that's fantastic. Wow. That and see, again, very heartwarming to hear some of the stories, the kids that you work with, and some of the lives that you've touched, because there's so much more to, us as individuals, obviously, but there's so much more out there that's beyond our everyday scope. Not everybody sees some of these, the kids with some of these diagnoses on a daily basis, so they're not aware of some of the challenges that they may face with. I love hearing stuff like this. So again, thank you so much. Terrence, good to see you, my friend. How have you been? Look at it. Is that a new profile picture? Oh my gosh. Oh man. Well, this has been fantastic. I mean, again, I can't thank you enough for coming on. So leading up, again, Chicago's just a few days away. How well do you feel like, sorry, I'm kind of getting back on topic.
You're fine. Yeah, you're good.
How well do you guys feel like, that limited time you've had as a team to be able to gel? Do you feel like it's coming together?
Yeah, I feel like it is really coming together. I feel like I had very realistic, I still have realistic expectations going into Chicago, mid-year with a new team. But I feel like my expectations for the team after this past weekend went up, just seeing how well we worked together. We were thankfully able to walk the field with CJ Canner from NYX. They had their practices out there this weekend at GG, along with Revo. The Russians were there, and Infamous was there. So we were able to watch some of those points, talk to some of those guys, which is always, awesome help. And really just like grind it out all weekend. We played against a lot of the GG teams. So from anywhere from D5 to, we played against some of the D2 guys as well. Dustin was great at setting up a schedule so that we were getting points in with multiple levels of teams. And started off a little rough on Saturday, but showed like a ton of growth by the end of the day, where we were consistently winning points. So I was very happy with how it went. And I think we've nailed down some solid game plans, 2 or 3 going into Chicago. So I'm feeling good, cautiously, very cautiously
cautiously optimistic.
optimistic.
Hey, that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen the layout. It looks like it's going to be a lot of fun.
Mhm.
You know, again, being more of a content creator, we don't get a chance to play some of these layouts. So, you know, boots on the ground, so to speak, it's obviously a lot different, but it looks like the layout's going to provide some very exciting paintball. So, you know,
Yes.
it'll be really cool to see, you know, how the weekend plays out. But they, you know, the one thing that kind of stood out for me is that, you know, you said it yourself. You guys are already getting exposure from so many different levels.
Mhm. Yes.
And you even had some of the pro teams out there practicing, and you were able to talk with them, learn, you know, a little bit of like, you know, hey, when we come in from, you know, snake side shooting cross, you know, what have you,
Mhm.
it's all of that goes building towards, you know, your guys' success. I've always said you can never completely count out any team when it comes to this sport.
Right. Yeah.
You know, and one of
Yeah.
the most clear cases of that is when you watch people doing one-on-ones.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
That's very true. Yeah.
now when it comes down to it, who's your best gunfighter? There you go. That's what I was looking for.
I mean, I will say I have probably been the one playing the longest, so it comes down to time. But yeah, I feel like if we're doing one-on-ones, they're gonna be like, go, and I'll be
They're
like,
gonna be
no,
like, go get them, Jets. That's what I was looking for. That's what I was looking for. Yeah. Oh my god. Very cool. Very cool. Oh my gosh. So, kind of again drifting a little bit back towards the team. So what are we going to be seeing out of you ladies this weekend? Who's the team sponsors?
GI is our overall sponsor. So from what I understand, and I'm still relearning brands a lot, so excuse me.
It's not easy because companies get bought out and absorbed. Yeah, I know.
So if I understand right, is it core like oversees quite a few brands where it's like GI, JT?
Yep.
So that would be like our overarching sponsor right now. We're using Profilers. I am so bad with names.
The grill?
Yes, we're using the grills.
Okay.
So we got those this weekend. GI for paint. We will not have guns until next season. So we're using what we have right now. We're going to be getting for right now, I think for next season, we're getting 180s, which I have not shot yet. So I'm curious to see how that is.
You're in for a treat.
I'm excited. Yeah. I shoot a CS2 Pro now. So I'm assuming they're somewhat similar, but I'm not quite sure.
So the easiest way from everybody that I've spoken to that shot the 180, and then I actually did get my hands on it. It shoots like it's basically a smaller CS3.
Okay.
So it's probably going to feel super comfortable in your hand.
Yeah.
Yeah. The gun shoots amazing. They're really, I mean, PE is always made of just beautiful guns. Now I myself no longer shoot a PE. I shoot a shocker now. So, but yeah, I mean, Planet Eclipse has always made great products, and I mean, Jack Woods is he's just a madman with his designs. But yeah, I feel like you're really gonna like the way the 180 feels.
I'll have to pick one up soon. I'm sure I will love it, and we have a at GG they have a guy Mark who does custom engravings, and some of his stuff is like, it's insane, the stuff he does. Like it's really cool. So I'm pretty sure he's going to be the guy working on ours. So I'm excited to see what he comes up with. So
nice.
Yeah. Something to look forward to.
Are you guys going with the triad loader, or are they? The only reason I ask is because there's been some rumors going around, and not asking you to substantiate because I have my own people that I talk to. But there's been some rumors that the tryout is slowly getting phased out because a lot of teams are having issues with it. So are you guys going to be shooting Spire, or are you using Halos, or what's?
I don't think it has been confirmed either. So he that whole setup piece will be more like, I think he said in December we'll be getting those pieces. So right now it's more of the soft gear,
Right.
the jerseys, the pants, pack, and mask. So which is okay. Like I feel comfortable with what I have now, and then just kind of amp it up for the 24 season. So
Sounds good. Now that leads me to my next question. You mentioned, soft goods, things like that. When are we going to see the Archangels jersey?
I want to see them.
I'm a jersey whore. I am a jersey whore.
Right. I don't even know what they look like. So, Dustin said we'll have them in Chicago. So as soon as they, cross your fingers, are there, I'll send you a picture. How about I'll send it to you as soon as I get it.
Are you kidding me? I would love that. I mean, I've got my closets full of different kinds of jerseys now. I mean, the Texas Cyclones were nice enough to gift me a jersey. I got one from the NTX Goonies. I've got a bunch of, so that's my vice. I have, I collect jerseys and headbands.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I don't think from what I understand, they're not going to be individualized for this event. We're still getting things rolling, but it should be, everything else.
Cool. Well, I like I say, I can't wait to see them. If nothing else, I'm always about, something fresh and something new. Now, I have nothing against the color black, but so many teams use the color black. And so I'm really hoping that, they're not mostly black.
I'm going to be as surprised as you are. I know it. I'm sure he's going to go with, the black and gold with, the GG colors in some sense. So curious to see how that translates. But.
Yeah, I mean, the logo for the team looks awesome.
It is. I was really impressed.
Yeah, when the Instagram account went live, we immediately started following, and I was like, "Look at that! That looks so sick,
so cool."
Yeah.
And if the Instagram, so I'm like teaching myself this as I go. Like I'm the one running the Instagram at the moment. Some of the other women are going to jump on and help me. I'm still like so slow on social media stuff, so I'm slowly teaching myself these things, and it'll get there. So.
Well, if you worked with the older kids, you probably would have it would have come sooner, I think. But right now, they haven't prioritized the phone in the hand,
No. I'm sure they would want to. My daughter's 9 and she keeps asking me for a phone. I'm like, no, you're okay. Like you don't need that.
Yeah. 11. 11 was when mine got hers.
That's fair. Yeah.
and then she got it promptly taken away, and I don't think she's gotten it back since.
Yeah.
But that wasn't my fault. I had nothing to do with that.
It's fair. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, this has been absolutely, just a treasure. Thank you so much again. I cannot thank you enough for for coming on, for talking with me, especially, this was kind of hodgepodge thrown together because, like I say, I'm without Eugene tonight, and he usually handles a lot of our, the technical side of things. Yes. So I thank you so much for bearing with me on that as well. But I think I am going to wrap it up a little bit early. We're about 5 minutes off of our hour mark anyway. Plus it's coming up on
11:20. I'm tired.
Yeah. So I really should be, letting you get to bed so you can spend, at least a couple hours trying to get sleep before work tomorrow. But before we go, anybody you want to shout out, anybody you want to thank, and we'll kind of go from there.
You're at work. Well, I'm sorry. I have to work with little children that don't give me any peace in the morning. So Thank
Oh no,
you.
thank you, Mike. Thank you so much for supporting the show as much as you have. I really, really appreciate it. Ah, my gosh. All right. Well, on that note, then, so when we when we close out the show, we try and just remind people to get out and support your local fields, support your local shops, do as much as you can to help keep growing that sport, help keep promoting, and most of all, always remember that if you can move and you can shoot and you can play.